Welcome to the Fabulous 413 live from Tanglewood, where this afternoon into the evening, Tanglewood is on parade.
Tanglewood on Parade dates back to the 1940s when the BSO music director and Tanglewood founder, Sergei Kusevitsky. I practiced this watching YouTube videos all this morning, and I found out that
it's the pressure of live radio.
It is, and that I had also heard tales that his haunted bass still exists in the world. Do you know anything about this story?
Well, I can tell you about his house on what is now the Tanglewood grounds. The Tanglewood grounds is actually a combination of several big estates, the things called laughably Berkshire cottages that were built by the aristocracy in the second half of the 19th century.
Newport, right?
Exactly. And his particular one is called Saranac. It's over to the side of the campus. It's actually closed for renovations right now. But in that was his actual house, and there is one room there that was his bedroom, has a wardrobe, and we used to put people up there when we didn't want to pay for a hotel.
Until they found out it was haunted?
No, they knew it was haunted the whole time. And I actually stayed in that room once, and you walk in and you say, oh, there's a wardrobe over there. It's an old, dusty wardrobe. And you say, well, I wonder what's it. And you go over and open it, and there's like 3 perfectly pressed tuxedos, like 70-year-old tuxedos and little shoes. He's a very tiny guy, all in a row. And then you start wondering about those doors you hear banging in the night.
Because the story was that his double bass was gifted to another phenomenal double bass player, and that his wife went to go see this new performer with his double bass and claims she saw a ghost come behind him on stage, and then other people have had all these mysterious incidents. So Keith Lockhart, conductor of the BSO and our Tanglewood correspondent.
How did the resale value of the bass deal with that?
I'm sure.
I mean, it goes up if it's haunted, right?
Yeah.
Not if you have to play it.
Right.
Fair.
Oh, I totally commandeered our script here to talk about why we're here at Tanglewood.
It started with your mispronouncing Sergei Kusevitsky.
Sergei Kusevitsky. I'm gonna get it. It's not an easy name to say. Sergei Kusevitsky. And excellent. Tanglewood on Parade, it started out after World War II, a little bit before World War II, but officially came into what it is now as a way to celebrate and to fundraise for the work that the BSO does.
And the event has remained virtually unchanged throughout the years, including a grand finale, a performance of Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture, played by both the BSO and the TMC. The Tanglewood Music
Center Orchestra.
Right.
Yes.
Which is an entirely fellowshipped group of outstanding young performers who are right on the verge of their own professional careers.
So cool to hear.
And we are broadcasting live from the maestro of the Boston Pops, Keith Lockhart's dressing room.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
I am not. Yes. This is luxe. Most people in Tanglewood would kill to have a room as nice as this. We're a little rustic here.
I was wondering if this place ends up a little like practice space starved when everybody's here and working on pieces, because like we came in the Maple lot and there's those cabins where there's, I think, pianos, or like those are practice spaces, but walking through and seeing people like get from space to space, I just wonder if there's always someone looking for space and not having it.
I think they probably have enough. Of course, the BSO players who are here for the entire summer, they don't live on campus, and they largely go home to practice. Right. And the Tanglewood Fellowship program is actually very small and very exclusive. It's basically an orchestra worth, plus the vocal fellows, composition, conducting, and all that sort of thing. And the great thing about the conductors and composers is they don't need practice rooms. So I think it works, but they are spread out all over the campus, and a couple particularly older models that are right behind the shed here.
But it is amazing that, we're here technically before the gates open, and the music emanating from all the nooks and crannies around here, not just because it's Tanglewood on Parade and it will come out from inside the shed, but because that's just the nature of what goes on here during the summer.
Right. Well, it would be the strangest days in a place like this are when you come after it is closed and it's silent. I mean, the thing that's always reassuring, I mean, you just say, what's not there? And you say, the music. And there's always somebody practicing an excerpt, an ensemble rehearsal going on, 3 or 4 things like in weird counterpoint. And it's a very cool sort of feeling. But for the public, of course, in the afternoon, we will open the grounds, and there is music in pretty much every nook and cranny. There's music here at the shed. I think there's music over at Ozawa Hall and the theater and those places as well. A lot of performing groups from our Tanglewood Music Fellows, I believe also from Tanglewood Institute, our high school program, and of course culminating in the big concert that brings everybody together on stage tonight in the shed.
What will you be conducting as part of Tanglewood on Parade later today?
Well, I'm
Chief
doing
Lockhart, our
yes,
Tanglewood
yes,
correspondent,
yes,
the
well,
maestro of the Boston
Rimsky
Pops.
correspondent.
Well, I mean, the whole point of Tanglewood on Parade is to kind of show the breadth of things that go on here. So traditionally, at least in the time since I've been here, which is getting, to be a substantial portion of that time, it has featured the Boston Symphony on its own, the Boston Pops on its own, the Tanglewood Music Center Orchestra on its own, and then for the finale brings the players of the Boston Symphony, Boston Pops together with the Tanglewood Music Fellows and plays the world's largest 1812 overture. Tonight, the Boston Pops is actually being conducted by two of us because John Williams is in the house. And certainly anytime he is here is a welcome cause for celebration. He's doing 2 or 3 of his things, music from Born on the 4th of July, the Motorcycle Scherzo from Indiana Jones, and The Flight to Neverland from Hook. He's here, and I will take the helm to do 2 different takes on Spain, which kind of show the breadth of what the Boston Pops does. We're playing the last half of Rimsky-Korsakov's Capriccio Español. We're following that with a new arrangement that was made for the Pops this year, actually. Amazing jazz arrangement, really kind of hardcore jazz of Chick Corea's Spain, which is a very virtuoso. I mean, for a whole orchestra to play, you know the piece, is really something, and so it really shows off, I think, the virtuosity of the orchestra. But also, I thought getting 2 takes on Spain 100 years apart was kind of fun.
That is really fun. I love the work that you've gotten commissioned for the Pops to bring here has been really interesting, from the Chick Corea piece to Ragtime earlier in the season. Is that what pieces are you excited to bring to the Pops, even if you're not doing them right now? And I swear we'll talk about the things that you're actually doing this summer.
Oh, you mean in the future? What pieces are we? I mean, there's always a wish list, and we're always looking for things that convert well to the world of symphonic music. Not everything does. I mean, I've always said that we try to we do try to play the world's widest variety of music that an orchestra plays, but we try to play music that either we can bring something to, or that brings something to us, or both. But sometimes it's just like, there's really no sense. And even if people would like us to do that, we kind of resist that because we want the orchestra to sound good at the end of the day. No, this is going on. It was great bringing Ragtime here. We did our Boston premiere. We actually commissioned it, but we didn't perform it first because of COVID, which is that's a tagline these days.
That's not the composer we were talking about earlier?
Because of COVID? Yeah. That's Shostakovich. It's very close. And the which is a concert version of Ragtime, stripped down from its huge size enough that it can be contained on the concert stage with a full orchestra, beautiful orchestration, an amazing, timely story that I think is more relevant now than when the show premiered in 1998. It's really very affecting, and in some ways even difficult to watch, knowing what we've been through even in just these last few years. And going on this summer, I come back. The BSO will not be here because the BSO is going to go to Europe on tour, and I'll be here with the Boston Pops, the same Boston Pops you heard on the 4th of July, playing 2 concerts at Tanglewood on the weekend of the 26th and 27th, I believe. One of them is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the entire movie shown in high def with the orchestra playing the entire score. It's an incredible score and really, really hard. It makes the Star Wars movies seem easy, actually. And on Saturday night, the 26th, and on the 27th, we're premiering a new program that is actually a program we're preparing to take to Japan. I'll take credit for it and hope it comes out okay. It was my idea was to try to tell the whole story of Star Wars. I mean, as a bar bet, try to get anybody to actually tell you what happens in Star Wars from the beginning through the end.
Don't get us going.
Don't leave anybody out now. It's sprawling and convoluted to say the least. So I said, what if we could use music from all 9 Star Wars films? Because John wrote the score to every single one of them. and use a narration, kind of a upbeat, fast, witty sort of narration, like a horrible histories sort of thing where you just rush through and tell the story. And so it's called Star Wars: The Story in Music, and it's going to premiere on the 27th at 2:30 here. We'll do it in September in Boston Symphony Hall, and then we're taking it on tour to Japan, where the narration will obviously be in Japanese.
I think that's amazing.
I think
I can't wait.
I can't wait.
I kind of want to see it in Japanese as well.
I know,
I'm worried about that too, because of course to keep these things tight, you anticipate closing lines of narration, so you just flow right into the thing, and all I can imagine is getting to the end and going, oh, I'm trying to think of the syllables at the end of the last sentence. It'll end in des.
That is Boston Pops conductor Keith Lockhart.
Maybe Desne if they're being
Yes,
really
yes,
colloquial.
yes.
Oh, see,
Or if they're
Khalees.
asking a question, des ka.
You should do the rest of the interview in Japanese.
No, that would be terrible.
It would be short.
Yes.
We are live in Keith Lockhart's dressing room at Tanglewood in anticipation of Tanglewood on Parade. This is the fabulous 413 live from Tanglewood. We're all really excited. And you've mentioned these incredible scores that John Williams, who is somewhere in the building, has created. And you, of course, took over the baton for the Pops from John Williams. He is the second most Academy awarded person of all time. He's arguably one of the most important musicians of the entire 20th century.
He's probably the best known composer living.
Yeah.
I did my thesis on him.
Cool. Well, you should be doing the rest of this interview then. Well, we really should chase him down then so you can say hi.
No, I will fangirl out. It will not be okay.
We will all
Oh, there she fainted again.
Yeah, we'll all fangirl out. But is it? I'm sure over the years you've been conducting the Pops now for
28 years.
28 years. I actually, the first time I met you was 28 years ago backstage at Great Woods it was more of a meet and greet situation.
That's cool. Were you 15 at the time?
Yeah, I was actually. I was in the high school band.
Thanks,
and
man.
we went as a high
That makes
school
me feel
band
really
trip.
good, by the way.
You're only 18 at the time. When you started out conducting these pieces that John Williams created and is so globally famous for, was there a level of intimidation? And is it different now when you will be conducting the Star Wars night that we will all hopefully come see here at Tanglewood at the end of August?
It is different. I mean, I suppose there was always intimidation just from all of a sudden being a close colleague with John. The very first time I met him was we had dinner secretly in a suite at the Four Seasons in Boston the night before I was appointed, because I had not met him. And because as usual, he didn't have anything to say about the picking of a successor, and they thought we should know each other because he is still, of course, on the conducting staff of the Boston
Right.
Pops.
Emeritus.
Conductor. And we had a delightful meal, and he was just very warm and very kind and all that sort of thing. But, every now and then it couldn't help escape my mind. It was like, that's John Williams over there.
So glad to see that happens to you.
And he was arguably even less John Williams then than he is now.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, it was obviously after Star Wars and Indiana Jones and lots of things, but his legend has cemented over these years, and I think he's one of the most prolific and certainly one of the most creative and causatory film composers to ever live, maybe even the most, and still doing miraculously very well at 91 years old, and still composing, still talking about his next project. I really think that's his secret. That's his fountain of youth is always having another great project to embark on. But it was a little. I mean, there was so much intimidation going on when I was 35 and started in this job that was only a very small part of the total intimidation. So.
Because even the name, the Boston Symphony Orchestra, the Boston Pops, comes very heavily weighted. Looking back on that time, what are some of the things that you feel most proud of in your time behind the baton with the Pops?
We were talking about how things change and how, yes, to answer your question too, yes, that our relationship is different now. It's it's never, when you're talking about somebody of that stature, you're talking about true genius. It's never quite peer to peer, but it's basically two colleagues talking about what they're doing. But then I'm older than he was now. I'm older than he was when he left the Pops. So now at least I can now I can at least be a peer with him back then. The first time I ever heard a concert in Symphony Hall, in Boston, I was on the podium.
Wow.
That was the first concert I ever heard there. I had auditioned in that space for Tanglewood and stuff like that, but I had never heard a concert there until I was like, and all of a sudden I is one. You know, that was kind of funny. Certainly, I think what I'm most proud of is trying to shepherd the Pops through a time that has, I think, unprecedented change in entertainment, in society in this country, in the methods of distribution and dispersal of product. The world is very, very different from where it was. It's arguable that when I came in 1995, we were still, stuck a little bit in an analog world that was rapidly becoming digital, and our audience was aging faster. I mean, your audience always ages, but it was aging faster than we should have allowed it to by that point. And we tried to do a lot of things to continue to broaden the spectrum, but not only that, just to make it apparent to people that we existed for lots of different age groups, and we were not just, your grandma's PBS band. Though, by the way, when I started the job, my maternal grandparents were still alive, and I used to visit them in the home they were in Hendersonville, North Carolina. And every time I'd show up, doors would open up and down the hall, and noses with walkers would stick their heads out into the hallway and go, "That new conductor's here," because Evening of Pops at that point was the gold standard for over 70s viewing.
I think it's still the gold standard for anybody who loves symphonic music, despite your age.
But over the years, I mean, the amount we've taken this orchestra out on the road. I've toured with our touring orchestra, the one going to Japan. I've probably been out on the road with them about a year by this point, if you add the whole stuff up, continuing to find ways to connect with people. I mean, in the same way that, rock bands too, in these days where it's no longer you make a record, everybody buys the record and you tour in support of the record. More now it's people buy the record because they saw you live.
Yeah.
It's really reversed, and that's not the worst thing in the world. No. I mean, it's obviously, for us in terms of income stream for recordings, and it's not anything like what it used to be.
Especially not symphonic recording.
No. Well, basically CDs now are souvenirs. I mean, you almost give them out just as brand, and what you try to do is get people to come to your concerts, for classical music, it's had a harder time making it over into the streaming world in a really vibrant sort of way. So all those things are challenges we still have to face, which is why I can't retire yet.
Nor do we want you to.
Well, thank you for steering the ship anyway.
Yeah.
We appreciate the effort.
I don't think we've hit anything that is going to leave too big a hole in the boat yet. So.
We're speaking with Keith Lockhart, our Tanglewood correspondent for the Fabulous 413, live from Tanglewood in the Maestro's dressing room at Tanglewood on Parade. And we're talking about trying to attract a younger audience. Does something like Tanglewood on Parade, where you're actually different enclaves of musicians, different quartets are out in the field, is that a way that is more interactive that does attract a younger audience?
Well, I think it does, in that it's more than overtly. It's not like we program trying to get to a younger audience, but it's a big community event. I think one of the things that prompted Tanglewood on Parade in the beginning was an idea of making the people of Lenox and Stockbridge and the area around here feel invested a little bit in what went on in Tanglewood. It's too easy to think of these places as kind of walled enclaves where super serious those people from the city come and study music and stuff, and it's not, and you need to be reflective of your community. And I think the idea that most of the events here are free during the day too, so it's about getting people out. And I think when that kind of thing happens, you get a lot of people, not just younger people, but people who are not part of this world coming, and a lot of them bring their kids because it's a really great, relaxed way to experience music. And you're also seeing a lot of younger performers, so you have that kind of resonance and connection. I mean, it's been, we all gnash our teeth about younger audiences, but what I like to tell people is there was a critic named Philip Hale who was the most important critic in Boston around the turn of the century into the first decade or so, the 20th century. And there was a great article that he wrote where he said, if we don't do something about this aging of the audience, the classical music audience will be totally gone by 1925. something like that. And so you realize that's always the concern, and to some extent you accept that. I mean, in terms of it's like your 21-year-old aren't big on Saint-Emilions on Bordeaux and stuff like that. That's,
you were missing out.
Yeah, exactly.
Merlot.
But people start with things, and if they're curious and interested, they develop tastes and they move toward those things. But what we need to do is keep renewing and keep putting it out there so people can have the opportunity to experience. And that's one of the reasons that so much death of good school music programs is one of the biggest problems with that, because as I tell other people, I probably would never ever go to a Red Sox game if I hadn't played Little League, because I just don't think I'd get the point.
Right.
And the same thing's true for this. Participation is what brings you the next generation of true fans.
Well, I mean, and I was in the high school band and went to Symphony Hall as part of my curriculum. So when you're working with the fellows that are here, do you see the potential? Do you see? Do you feel hopeful when you work with the young conductor that we'll have a little bit later on in the show? That it's one of the two fellows that will conduct all the three.
Yes,
here?
we have one of the Tanglewood conducting fellows is participating in tonight's program, as is Andres Nelsons, the music director, and John and myself. So it should. I always feel hopeful when I've also just come from another summer festival that I'm the artistic director of down in North Carolina, and we have about 500 students there, and I'm always re-energized and hopeful about. But the concern has never been about whether we have more excellent performers coming up. In fact, we have so many more than the industry can actually absorb right now that's the issue more than who's going to carry the torch. We got a lot of people to carry the torch, but what we need is people to follow the torch. And but what I do see that makes me hopeful in younger players, even the younger players, I'm now old enough to be the parent of some of the members of the BSO, and the people we've made almost to a person, the choices we made of new players in the orchestra in the last decade or so, have much more of a eyes open kind of view of what their job is in terms of proselytizing, of being missionaries, of going out and supporting. They see their futures as invested in bringing people to the table, outside of their moral responsibility, but even just their paychecks. And when I was first here, and I was working with people quite a bit older than me, there was much more of an attitude of, well, I'm the best violinist I can possibly be, so I should be, I deserve to be well compensated for the rest of my career and retire on a pension, and that's that. Because the best person in anything, if I were a great shortstop,
Right.
But I'm seeing less of that now. I'm seeing more people saying, yes, we've worked really hard to do this, and it's also part of our ongoing work to make sure people want to listen to what we have to say.
Well, it's been a delight listening to what you have to say. Our Tanglewood correspondent, the maestro of the Boston Pops.
Was that a little too heavy for your show?
No,
a
it was
little
perfect. I do have just a quick question about, you work with young people and fellows and for these two music programs here and in North Carolina. Do any of their choices in work that they bring or are working on ever change your ideas for what the Pops later seasons will be like? Does something pop out? Do people bring things that surprise you?
It's not so much what they bring that they're working on, but it's what they bring that they know about and that they find interesting. In particular, people who they tell me about who are, it's easy to scoffingly say they're internet sensations, but there are actually really talented people out there who are distributing their music in a way that I would not tend to see unless somebody said, hey, have you checked out this person? And we actually are talking right now about opening our next spring pop season in Boston with just one of these people whom I had never heard, and I went and checked her out online. I'm blown away. And so this is one of the points of connection that those of us of a certain age who don't have an Instagram account, don't have a Facebook page — I have one, but I don't actually look at it. And we need to connect with the worthy things. That it's too easy to go, the internet's ruined everything. But that's not how the younger half of our audience perceives it.
And it doesn't hurt to have a 10-year-old around to keep you savvy as to what's going on. I'm so
also,
thankful to my
also
kids for
also
turning
to
on
program
some
the
of these.
remote.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
Keith Lockhart, the Tanglewood correspondent for the Fabulous 413. It's always been a pleasure. I can't wait to see you from the shed later tonight with John Williams and Andres Nelson and more.
Thanks. It's great to see you guys here. Welcome to Tanglewood.
Thank you for
so
letting us
much.
take over your dressing room. We need to kick you out of your own dressing room.
Oh, boy.
You've got a meeting, and we've got more people.
Some guest you are. Can I take your sign with you?
Yeah, sure. Take the Fabulous 413 sign. We'll make another one. Thank you so much.
The Fabulous 413 is funded by WFCR's partners, Amherst, Hampshire, Mount Holyoke, and Smith Colleges, and the University of Massachusetts, Amherst.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We are live from Maestro Keith Lockhart's dressing room.
But we
at
just kicked him out.
Tanglewood, but we have kicked him out.
So that we can
have
talk.
Welcomed Rachel Childers with us to the Fabulous 413. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You were the first woman in the brass section of the BSO.
Still only.
Wow.
Still only.
And
Yes.
the BSO has been around for a very, very long time.
True.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I will say, like, I'm not necessarily surprised at that. For women in brass sections, especially, like, there's always a smaller number. Like, I have a small funk band with a brass section, and we have a female member, and it's awesome. But it also took some years before that happened.
Right, before it cycled through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you always been the only one in the room or one of just a handful?
No, so I think it's definitely a generational thing. When I grew up, playing horn in the 80s in Michigan, it was all women. All girls, I should say. We weren't women yet. And going through college, it was always about 50-50. And you'll see, tonight in 1812 with the TMC Orchestra, there are several women in the brass section. So it's not really unusual, but I think in an orchestra like the BSO where the turnover is really, really low, it just takes a long time for new people to be hired. And, the orchestra has done a really great job of creating blind auditions and blind resume screening so that, hopefully there's more equity there. And I think it just takes a little while. So I'm a little bit lonely for any female brass players wanting to come
It'll
play.
take some time, but you'll get some company.
I hope so.
Sure.
I hope so. We have an audition in the horn section this year, and I'm not so secretly hoping that we get another woman. So
You're also on the faculty at New England Conservatory of Music.
True.
So are you seeing up-and-coming female horn players there?
yeah, I mean, there's really no distinction. The people learning and choosing to play brass instruments, it's not gendered at all. Even if it was many generations ago. So that's not the case now. I teach mostly female students. I have an incoming freshman guy this year, so I'm looking forward to that. But it's funny. What it looks like on stage isn't exactly what it is in person.
Right.
So
What's different about playing Tanglewood on Parade, where it kind of comes out from behind the shed and is out into the other nooks and crannies, as I keep calling them, on the grounds of Tanglewood?
Oh, it's super fun. Like we get to kind of like put ourselves everywhere in the whole property. So after this, I'm going to go play at Seiji Ozawa Hall, playing the Circle Round live episodes with our friends Rebecca and Eric from WBUR. Sorry.
It's okay. Colleagues.
Yeah.
They don't know us yet, and they probably don't like us.
They're lovely. You should meet them.
Hopefully we will.
So yeah, we're doing like a children's podcast over in Ozawa Hall. There's it's just epic what they do here on the grounds on Tanglewood on Parade. And before I had kids, I really didn't quite know because I would come in for my rehearsal and then I'd come here with some colleagues play and then play my concert. I really had no clue what this thing was. And it's really just a super fun like carnival day of Tanglewood.
Does it feel different to interact with the audience a little more close up than when everybody's sitting in their seats and you're up on the
I
stage?
have this picture in my brain of like families walking around and then just like small ensembles jumping out of the bushes
French horn is in the woods.
and
my
playing
God.
like chansons.
I think you're having ideas for 2024.
I mean,
The jump out ensemble.
Yeah, it's like an immersive theater experience.
Yeah.
surprise chansons, just like
But does it feel different to interact that close to an audience as opposed to being far off on the
I
stage?
think so, and it's more fun because I think people get the entire picture of what happens here and what goes on. We have the whole generation, right? We have high school, college, us. There's the little kids. There's everything happens today. So I don't think people usually get that kind of sneak peek when they just see us in our fancy clothes on stage.
Are there anything that you see with families here when you're at Tanglewood on Parade that you bring back to your library performance program?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that performers were always learning by watching other people who do it well, people who engaged with audiences at a very high level. And you learn new tricks all the time for like how to keep an audience going, how to create an arc of a program, which is really important for in town. I do a lot of library concerts and like small people concerts, and that's a tricky audience. I don't know if you have young people, but you have their attention for a short amount of time, and then they show you immediately when they lose it. They just stop doing anything. So there's actually a magician here who comes every year and strolls the grounds, and that guy, I don't know if you've seen like a bunch of little people attached to a performer before, but like he has that thing where like kids just really pay attention.
Have you nicknamed him the Pied Piper, or is that a little dark?
That's an actual.
No, I think that's really accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a member of the BSO who plays the pipes.
Yeah.
The actual Pied Piper, maybe.
True.
You mentioned that you have kids. I do believe your partner is also a professional musician. Is
Yes,
that correct?
yes.
So what does your child listen to for music?
So he likes, our 10-year-old has very specific taste. He likes Van Halen. He likes any 80s rock band.
We were just talking about Van Halen in this very Keith Lockhart dressing room earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. He loves it. He listens, like he got into the Stones for a while. He's like a little old man. He's very fun. So yeah, my husband plays bassoon. I play horn, and my son picked saxophone, which all of my colleagues say only a gentleman knows how to play the saxophone, but doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
So they all think it's hilarious that I've let my child play saxophone, but he picked, and we thought it was his personality because he's quite boisterous, but it turns out he said, it's halfway between bassoon and horn.
I was just thinking that exact same thing
Right,
because
it's
it's got a reed, but it's brassy looking.
Right, you're on the same wavelength, yeah.
So it's his way of like anti-rebelling. He's like trying to
He's
bring
trying to raise
unity
you
to the household.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's very sweet. So,
Aw, that's adorable.
yeah, he practices with a lot of volume, so there's that.
He
but
does play sax.
He picked it.
I'm sure there's plenty of volume in that house.
Yeah.
We're speaking with Rachel Childers, who joined the BSO as the second horn at the start of the 2011-2012 season, the first and, at the moment, only female horn player in the Boston Symphony Orchestra. What are you excited to be playing at Tanglewood on Parade here today at Tanglewood?
Ooh, let's see, tonight. So there's this really great new arrangement of Chick Corea's Spain that we're
Yes.
doing with Pops that is like very, very tasty. It's really fun. We just did it in the hall, and now we're doing it again. And then, John Williams is conducting, and that's always amazing. It doesn't ever get old.
Really? That's what
Yeah.
we were kind of asking Keith Lockhart, too. So you are fanning out while John Williams is there conducting
We're professionals, so we put on the game face, and then afterwards,
Go around a corner and are like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It is cool, because there are a lot of people in the orchestra that are still around that were here when he was the conductor of Pops, and you feel a little jealous because he's got very special relationships with these people, and they're friends.
right.
It's super cool to see.
Is there a John Williams piece that you will be playing that you're particularly looking forward to? We know he's doing something from Hook tonight. We're doing something from Indiana Jones. Are you part of the Star Wars stuff that went on over the weekend or will be going on later this summer?
Yes. I played the film night concert last weekend, which as a horn player is a blow. Like you need ice cubes and ibuprofen
Yes.
after
Wow.
you're done with that night.
Yep.
It's really serious. So fun.
I love calling it a blow. I love
Yeah,
this label.
sorry. It is a real tough concert, but always really, really fun. And as horn players, of course, like we've known all of these tunes forever and ever and ever. They're like embedded in, what we wanted to do. Especially we got to do Jurassic Park this weekend, which was like, for me, I think I was 11 or 12, and that was it.
Yeah.
But then tonight we're doing two of the very, very fast ones that like you kind of like have to hold onto your chair to stay with it. So hopefully it'll go well for us in the horn section.
Hopefully it won't be such painful a blow.
No. It's very short. It's
Yeah.
hard and fast, and it's over very quickly.
Before
Like
we,
Moat scherzos.
Yeah, exactly.
before we let you go, when you've talked a lot about loving the music of John Williams beforehand, about loving music, and the Boston Symphony Orchestra, where we are here at Tanglewood, their home, their summer home, and Keith Lockhart, the maestro of the Pops' dressing room with the fabulous 413. When you were accepted as a member of the BSO, what did that feel like?
Surreal. This is a destination job for all of us. So I think anybody, when you win the audition, it doesn't quite feel like the thing. It feels like you had the dream that you won the lottery ticket, but it took a while for me to really understand what this was. So, auditioning is like an epic journey, and it mostly is failure for many, many years.
So don't give up, people listening.
Yeah, it's an exercise in like picking yourself up and just keep on going. So this was like, I don't even know how many auditions, 40, 50, somewhere in there
Wow.
that you take before you get these things. So I had the experience of I won this audition, and then I thought, well, I just bought my new audition luggage. Like, what am I going to do? I finally found the right bag.
Because you didn't do 40 or
Use it
50
when they go
auditions for
on
the pop. For the
No.
BSO. You were
It's
going
all
over.
around the country.
Yeah.
You go where there's the opening.
Yeah.
And there's a handful of openings every year. You just never know where you're going to end up. So, my husband and I are not from the East Coast. You just move where the job is.
Right.
So now it's home, but
And does your husband play with the BSO too?
no, he teaches. So he teaches at BUTI over the summer.
Oh,
So we're all out here together. The kids go to camp. It's just a mess. Last summer, we tried to get by with one car and an e-bike.
Oh,
And that was a hot mess in the Berkshires on the hills.
yes.
There was one day where we forgot to charge it, and the e-bike would make it to Tanglewood and back 1.5 times. And I was at Tanglewood after 1.5 times, and I went down the mountain and then had to go back up. And I got home and I said, "We're having 2 cars next summer. This is not happening again." Love the e-bike, but
Does it feel like a camp atmosphere, though, with you and the rest of the musicians in the orchestra being out here for what is essentially the BSO summer camp?
I think that's a really good description. Yeah, because all the families come out. We get to see each other in a different way than we do during the year. A lot of people think that playing in an orchestra is like having a family, and it is because you don't get along with everybody. You have different views. You know who to talk politics with and who not to. But then in the summer, you get to see each other and see your families and, hang out on the big lawn together. We also have a beach.
Yeah.
It's like our gathering point where everybody knows each other. It's a magical thing, I think, especially for people with young kids. It can be really fun if you like the country. So,
cool.
Rachel Childers, who joined the BSO as the second horn at the start of the 2011-2012 season, is still the only female member of the brass section.
But that's until this horn opening happens,
Yeah.
and who knows?
We got high hopes.
we're putting that out there.
Thank
we
you
are.
for giving us a glimpse into what goes on with the musicians here at the BSO and the Pops at Tanglewood on Parade, live on the fabulous 413. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Coming up, Armand Burke, one of only 2 conducting fellows selected to conduct both orchestra and smaller ensembles here at Tanglewood.
You're listening to the fabulous 413 on NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 is funded by PV Squared Solar, a worker-owned cooperative and certified B Corp celebrating 20 years of providing solar energy solutions. pvsquared.coop.
You're listening to the fabulous 413. I'm Monty Belmonte.
And I'm Khalees Smith.
And we are joined by Armand Burke, who is from Victoria, British Columbia, and has won a prestigious honor by being one of only 2 people that is going to be able to conduct, well, two fellows, I should say. I mean, they'll let John Williams conduct whoever he wants, I'm sure. But you are a younger person who is here, who is studying, and who's going to be conducting which orchestras, Armand?
The Tanglewood Music Center Orchestra, which is made up of all the fellows here, and then as well as a lot of chamber groups made up of the fellows.
About how many fellows?
I think this year the numbers are, it's in the neighborhood of 130, including the 2 conductors, 2 librarians, some singers, and then the whole orchestra.
That's a large amount.
Yes.
Even
It's a
for
good
an
team.
orchestra, that's a giant amount of people.
Yes, yeah.
And you only started reading and writing music in the past 10 years?
Yeah, I came to music very late in my life. So it wasn't until I started university that I even, in my first year of university, I took that Music 101 course, where you learn how to read the notes.
For your arts credit.
Exactly, yes. As the science student.
Liberal
Yeah.
arts school.
Hey!
I went to liberal arts school too. But so tell us that journey. Like, so what did you listen to music before? Were you listen to pop music, or what was your life like before you discovered that you were going to be going on this incredible journey?
It was, I guess, a little weird in that I did play in the middle school and high school bands as a jazz bassist, but I sort of cheated in that I didn't know how to read the notes. I just memorized which finger went where, and I had a good sense of the groove, so I would just kind of go with it. And I remembered, okay, if the chord's in E, I put my fingers here, and it just works out. So that was sort of how it went. And it was just a fun thing for me to have fun with my friends. And how I got into taking music seriously was my first day of orientation. This is at University of Alberta, and I sat down and they had the campus choir come and sing. And I went to the Francophone campus as well, so it's very small, like 14 people per class. And they sung this piece by Gabriel Fauré. It's called Cantique de Jean Racine, and I was just blown away. Like, I had never heard anything like that before, and especially nothing as beautiful before. And I just didn't realize how it was even possible for human voices to make this sound. So, I'm gonna go audition for this choir. I have to sing in this choir. And I took my audition. The guy's like, or the conductor, you can't read music, and your voice isn't that good, but we really need tenors. So come on in. And after the first semester, because it was at a small campus, we could take a minor in music. And he said, why don't you do that? Take some voice lessons. And I think your voice could actually do something. I'm like, okay, this is exciting. And after the first semester of voice lessons, he says, you actually have a really good voice. You should really consider doing this. And if you do a minor in music, there's this conducting course that you can take. And I just went home that summer thinking about what conducting was, what it meant to actually do that. And I was up all night, every night thinking about it. And I decided I have to do this. So the next year I did some intensive study and I auditioned as a voice student and I was accepted into the program and sort of went from there.
We're speaking with Armand Burke, who is one of the fellows, one of the only 2 who will be conducting the BSO as well.
Just the TMC.
Just the TMC, not the
maybe
whole
one day.
BSO.
But I get to be around them and hear them, which is just amazing. Yes.
Have you found that it feels different to conduct instruments as opposed to voices, as opposed to instruments with voices?
Yeah, I started out conducting choirs, and that's sort of where it began. And the gestures, they have the same principles. A 4 pattern is always a 4 pattern, 2 is always 2, and all that. But what you're looking to show changes a lot. When you're with choirs, the music tends to be less textured, and they tend to be focusing on you more. Because when you're with violins, they have 87 notes per second. They're looking up when they can, but the choir, they're on you. And you have to focus a lot more on the diction with them and a lot on the breath. Everything is about the breath with choirs. And of course, the breath is important with the orchestra, but since sometimes the music itself can be so much more technical, there's a lot more precision that goes into it. When you have both of them together, I think that some of the most amazing music can happen. Some of the stuff that made me want to go into orchestra in the first place was stuff like Fauré's Requiem or Mahler's Symphony No. 2, and just hearing when the voices in the orchestra are together and how all of these colors mix, it's an amazing experience.
It's interesting to me that you went from not reading music to having to read a score, which is reading all the music at the same time.
0 to 60 in very short
it's
period
way
of
more
time,
than
like
60.
past 60.
Yeah. Are you also playing music now on an instrument besides voice?
And besides bass.
Yeah.
I wish I still played bass. I wish I could go back now and do that, but as part of school, we do a little bit of piano, and I am by no means a pianist. I can sort of fiddle around and teach myself scores. But
Enough to get by is what your music program teaches you
There
when
we go.
piano is not your instrument.
Yes.
Says someone who studied guitar.
But singing, I did a lot of singing in choirs and in quartets and stuff like this. And what's interesting is when you start to learn music as a singer first, you get used to scores, because in a choir, you always have all of the parts in front of you. So you kind of build this awareness of what is everyone else doing? How does your part fit in? So getting to scores in that sense wasn't as difficult, but just being able to actually read what's on the score, other than these are pretty notes everywhere, was a long challenge, because I was doing my intro to music course at the same time that I was doing intro to music theory and history and oral skills. So as I'm trying to still remember, okay, this is a C and this is a D, they're asking me to identify Neapolitan 6 chords. I'm like, okay.
Are those ones that have like chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry?
Exactly. Yeah. People tend to like them a lot.
Armand Burke, who is conducting here as in an honor, one of only 2 people who will be conducting as one of the fellows, and you are here with other legendary conductors. Yes. You're here with John Williams. We are currently in Keith Lockhart's dressing room, where you can hear the throngs of crowds outside, or it might be the rain on the
It's
shed.
the
I don't know
rain
what it is.
on
It
the
could be.
shed that is
I'm
starting
going
to
with I'm going with throngs of crowds outside.
Maybe it's both.
Yeah. What do you feel like in the time that you've been here observing them, or even working with them, something that you will take with you forever going forward conducting?
I think I've had a lot of emotions since I stepped on this campus, and I remember the very first day we were all sort of put in Ozawa Hall for an orientation, and I just sat there and I was kind of zoning out in the orientation, because I just started to think of all of the concerts that have happened in that hall, and that's even the younger hall. And then when I came to the shed the first time, I made a very grave mistake, and I was about to conduct Mother Goose Suite, which I love this piece, but it starts very soft and slow. And about 2 minutes before I went on, I started to think about all of the conductors I was going to meet this summer and all of the conductors who have ever been on that stage, and my pulse just went through the roof. And so I get up there.
That was the fastest the orchestra has ever been.
Yes. But I've met so many amazing musicians and conductors this summer, and I've learned so much about discipline in self as a conductor, and how to really change what you're doing and be as specific as possible to make the musicians play their best. And a lot of people have different opinions on what a conductor does, but for me, I think that we're there to help the musicians really speak, as not just I play in this orchestra and I'm part of, I play my part, but each one speak individually and make a cohesive collaboration. And so just watching how all of these amazing and famous conductors do it in their different styles is just very inspirational.
That is Armand Burke. Congratulations on this wonderful honor. Are we going to get to see you conduct tonight as part of the Tanglewood on Parade?
Yeah, this is an amazing honor to be on the same program as Keith Lockhart, Andrew Nelson's, and John Williams. I see my name next to it. That's a typo.
Do you want me to pinch you?
Yeah, please. But I'll get to conduct Ravel's Bolero, which is...
I'm psyched.
People love
It
this
is.
piece.
Look,
We heard you conducting it before.
I've been
you?
defending this piece. Someone, I mentioned earlier that this is one of my favorite pieces, and they're like, "Oh, why?" But
I love it too.
There's such great build in that piece that when it gets to the release of the end, it is such a big, wonderful breath. I will defend this piece. I love Ravel in general. His piano work's fantastic, but there's something special about Bolero. So when I saw it on the program, I was psyched. I can't wait to hear you conduct it.
And it was really touched last night, because I did the piece as part of the TMC Fellows Orchestra, and someone came up to me after the concert. Her name was Mariam, and she said that she usually doesn't go to classical music concerts, but she came specifically to hear Bolero because her mother a few months ago had a stroke, and when she was in the hospital, she introduced her daughter to this piece of music, and they were listening to it together, and it was a great memory of connection to her mother. And she told me this after the concert, and I was trying to hold back tears of how touched I was that, this is why I came into music, to try to help move people.
That is Armand Burke, a young maestro who I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more from. He'll be conducting the Tanglewood Music Center Orchestra and Bolero tonight in the shed. And we're going to hear all about, in the last few minutes here, what's going to go on for the rest of Tanglewood on Parade live from Tanglewood in Keith Lockhart's dressing room. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 is funded by Florence Paint Center, independently owned and featuring Benjamin Moore paints and Hunter Douglas window treatments with trained specialists to help create successful projects. FlorencePaint.com.
And we are back with Amy Aldrich, who is from Tanglewood. We were hearing the throngs of crowds outside on the roof here while we were broadcasting.
Thank you for your emergency shelters.
Yes. Tanglewood on Parade, I'm sure, is an exciting event for you and the staff here. Tell us what you're looking forward to this evening about bringing the musicians out into the fields and the other concert halls.
Tanglewood on Parade is one of my favorite days of the entire summer. It really is an awesome way to just showcase everything that Tanglewood offers and is about and get people involved and bring the music close to them and the fun and the events. And it really is, there's something for everyone here. There's something for kids. There's something for, younger people if they want to do the activities that we're offering, like lawn games or Tanglewood temporary tattoos.
Face painting, I saw.
Face painting. We have a magician. We also have our Boston University Tanglewood Institute students, and they were out there, and it's always such an awesome thing to witness right as the gates are opening and they play the fanfares. Sadly, they're in the back of the shed right now due to the pouring rain.
I don't believe it. I didn't believe that was rain. That was fans.
That is not going to, dampen our spirits for this day.
It just means you have to come in a little bit further to see them.
That's right. That's right. And so everyone, just really comes today to enjoy a whole day at Tanglewood. It's a special time. We don't often open our doors for this, this long during an event with a concert. So there's a lot to offer, and people are they're really excited to be here, and that's really making it fun. All the staff loves it. Our volunteers love it. There's just so much to see and do and hear, and it is a great way to experience Tanglewood today.
I agree.
What's the best testimony you've got from a fan who's come to Tanglewood on Parade, experiencing the music come out of the shed?
I think really is that it's a journey. The whole day is a journey that you come and you see the younger students performing, the Boston University Tanglewood students who are high school students. Then you morph into the Tanglewood Music Center fellows. And by the end of the night, you have, John Williams on stage and Andres Nelson's, and what a way to end with Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture. Right. So it's a real journey for
There's so many people
attendees.
On that stage for
Absolutely.
that particular piece.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's where we have to end it. But thank you so much, Amy Aldrich from Tanglewood. Thanks to everyone who's joined us today live from Keith Lockhart's dressing room, including the maestro himself.
Thanks to
Keith
Matthew
Lockhart.
Erickson for helping us make this happen.
And thanks to our director, Tony Dunn. Tomorrow on the show, we'll be talking to the new director of the Community Foundation of Western Mass and see how they are helping farmers who have been flooded out this season. I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith. We'll see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.